What's up, guys? Great.
Coach, welcome.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you. And like Coach said, it's certainly been a whirlwind. That's hopefully the first and the last time I'll ever coach with two teams in spring ball. So it has been quite a few days, I can tell you that. But I can't be. I'm just so excited to be here to work for someone like Coach Brown, and also to be at this great university and this great football team and this great program. So really excited and looking forward to getting going.
Fantastic. Well, we'll grab a couple of questions here for you. First one will come from Michael Coe. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, Coach Bicknell. Welcome to Chapel Hill.
Thank you.
We talked with Coach Brown earlier this past week. He mentioned that you were on the list of assistant coaches that he would look to hire if he ever had an opening. What did you know about Coach Brown before this, or did you have a relationship with him?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. There was one team I would have left, and one coach I would have left for, and that would be here. And I told Coach Brown this story, and over 30 years ago, when I was a young coach, I think it was my second year in coaching, late 80s, might have been 89. I came down to North Carolina. We were actually making a little swing of, as a coaching staff, you'll go and try to go out and see other coaches and learn and all that kind of thing. One of our coaches knew someone here. And when we got here, Coach Brown was unbelievable. I mean, I was just a second-year coach, and he showed me all around the whole place and took us out to lunch. And so I was just so impressed with him. That was like a hero. Like at that time, I was like, oh my gosh, he's even talking to me, So from that time on, he has been just someone that I really look up to. And he talks about my dad and Bo Schemblich and those people. Well, for me, it was Coach Brown, Coach Paterno and people like that. And that's how I felt about him. And so for me to get an opportunity to now work under him and to coach under him is a huge thrill, and it already I can see why he's so successful. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach for a reason, and the program that he runs is second to none for sure.
Thank you.
All right, Alvaro Torres, go ahead.
Hi, Coach Bicknell. This is Alvaro Torres with Ensoners, a Latin American network. Thank you for your time.
Yep.
What did your father mean to your development as a coach, and what did it mean to play for him at Boston College?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it was everything, I mean, I idolized him, obviously as my dad, but also as a coach. Played for him. Sometimes it was tough to distinguish, because he was also my college coach. So but I just absolutely idolized him, the way he did things. I gravitate towards those guys that do things right. They're honest. They're going to do things right, and they have their priorities straight. It's not all about we have to win. We're trying to develop young people and trying to make a difference in their lives. And I know that was my dad's philosophy, and that was also Coach Brown's philosophy. So, if you're like-minded like that, you kind of gravitate towards those guys. My dad, when I first got to be the head coach at Louisiana Tech, I said, what advice do you have for me? And he said, treat every young man like they're your own son. And that's kind of the philosophy that I try to keep. And I try to tell them, now you ask my own son, he's going to say I was pretty hard on him, So it's not like we're buddies, but we all on this Zoom know what's out there for these young people. And what an opportunity they have right now to be at one of the best college universities in the world. And, they're playing football. What a platform they have. So if they take advantage of that right now, man, the sky's the limit for what they want to do. So, when I became a head coach, I'm just going to flat out tell you, everything big that happened, I'd call my dad, you know what I mean? And I think it's like that with most coaches. You have a mentor, that's someone that you really believe in and trust, and they're going to have a great influence on how you handle things.
Greg Barnes, go ahead.
Hey, Jack, how would you describe your coaching style, and how does that approach mesh with what Phil Longo wants to do offensively?
Well, first of all, I totally, another good reason why I came here was Phil Longo. I really enjoyed my time with him at Ole Miss. I totally believe in the philosophy of what he has. I mean, we're going to spread people out, take what they give us, and, that's if you're an O-line coach, that's the greatest thing you can ever hear, you know, because you're never trying to run uphill against something. If they get too many in the box, we're going to throw it over your head, or we're going to throw a screen, or whatever we're going to do. But so from an offensive line standpoint, that's really exciting and really the way it should be, I think, you know, because the whole offense is based on, you know, attack in other words, if they're going to try to stop something, we're going to go to something else. And so that's really, really exciting. I think for my personal coaching style, you know, that 7 years in the NFL, I think that affected how I was, you know, or how I am now. I was probably a little bit more excitable when I was younger, or however you want to say it. But, you know, when you get to the NFL, it's a business. And one of the big things that I always say is we are what we put on that tape. You know, no matter what anybody says, and that includes me, whatever's on that tape, that's who I am. And it's the same thing with the players. So, you know, my philosophy is, look, I know exactly what I'm doing. I've been doing this a long time, including in the NFL. And you need to do it exactly the way I say it. And we need to play hard and finish people. And then, you know, we're going to put on tape what we need to see on tape. And so that's just kind of my philosophy at this point. You know, in the NFL, you don't try to motivate people. You're not trying to talk them into playing. They're going to play. And that's what I ask of my guys. Look, I want you guys to show up every day, play hard, let's finish blocks, and let's do it exactly the way you're coached, and good things are going to happen.
Thank you.
Okay, Dina King, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Bicknell, Dina King, Tar Heel Illustrated. You got a good mixture in the offensive line group with experience and youth. Did you have any prior experience recruiting any of the guys that is in your offensive line group right now, in particular, Zach Rice, and what type of player he can be for you?
Yeah, well, I pretty much knew about all of them, except, you know, the issue of like a Zach. I mean, you know, they have their own interests, so you don't get very far down the road with some of those guys. But the guys that I really recruited, Diego Pounds I recruited, had many Zoom calls during the COVID years of, you know, hopefully that's all over with. But and then William Barnes and Ed Mondelus, I was recruiting hard with Phil. We were in their homes and things, so it is kind of a nice reunion. And it's kind of crazy how now I'm glad we didn't get them because I wouldn't be coaching them. So it's kind of crazy how this business works. But I'm sorry, what was the other part of that question? Was that all?
That was it. I was just wanting your prior relationships with those guys on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, those are the guys that, for the most part, those are the guys I had the real good relationship with.
Thank you, sir.
Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Bicknell. I know you've only been here almost less than a week or about a week and had one practice, but looking through tape and seeing what you had in practice on Saturday, what's your evaluation of kind of what you have in this room right now? Any standouts, anything, you know, work on? I mean, and also how are you kind of approaching it, entering it right now?
Well, it has been a whirlwind now, and it takes more than one day of really looking at them and studying them, of course. But I do have familiarity with the offense. You know, sometimes we have to catch little things, but, you know, a lot of the stuff I was able to just kind of hit the ground running. And I'm very impressed with what I see. I think we have a nice mixture of some older guys that have played a lot of football that are very good players, but we've got some younger guys that are going to have to come through for us, you know, and that's going to be, I think, the key to this group. So, especially with the younger guys, and to be perfectly honest, I haven't spent a whole lot of time watching the older guys from last season. You know, I would follow North Carolina quite a bit because Phil was such a good friend of mine, and so I would, every time they were on, that's the game I'd be watching. But really, that's not like really studying what you have. So that's going to be a work in progress. I'll have a lot better idea about that at the end of the spring. I do see, you know, some talented guys, and I do think it's a good mixture of some guys that, you know, have been there and done that. And then there's some really talented young guys that, you know, it's a process. It's not like, you know, wide receiver, running back. Sometimes those guys are just naturally gifted and they can be ready to play a little bit more than an offensive lineman. An offensive lineman is a process, and it takes some time. But, you know, I told those young guys, I said, look, there are no red shirts. Let's go. Let's get ready to roll. And I think it's a great attitude in the room. I love the character of our players. You know, I think that's how you end up at a place like this anyways. But they are great character and great young people. And I'm just excited about it. Can't wait to get back out on the field tomorrow and as many more times as we can.
I get a follow, Mark. Do you have a philosophy of cross-training players for multiple positions? I know that's a way to build depth, and a lot of O-line coaches in the past have done that. A tackle can also play some guard, and a guard can also play some center. Is that how you approach it, or what's your philosophy on that?
Absolutely, that's a philosophy, and you know that comes back from the NFL too. And that's what I try to tell these guys. Look, when you send your guys out in the NFL, there's 2 more guys standing next to you, which was a shock for me my first year because, you know, in college, I mean, we'll send 5 guys out there. You might have 13 guys around you, 12 or 13 guys. So in the NFL, you better have somebody that can play a guard and tackle, and you better have somebody that can play center and guard because if that guy gets hurt. So that's 100% a philosophy. You know, William Barnes is a perfect example. He can play guard and tackle, and that's what you're shooting for, you know. But some of these young guys, you're going to kind of settle them into what position you think, and then if they can get that down, then you start to move them to some different places. So, and I hesitate to make a whole lot of comments of the guys I have now just because, you know, I don't want to just base it on one day. I want to get out there and see more of them. But without a doubt, you know, you want to try to make sure that you can get guys that can play too, and that just gives you flexibility, like you said. And if this guy gets hurt, okay, he's cross-trained, he can go in there, so that makes it great. But you got to be the right guy, and you got to get him settled in on one position first, and then branch out from there.
Okay, let's swing over to CL Brown.
All right, Coach. I was curious for this unit. It took some lumps last year in terms of the amount of sacks they gave up, and Coach Brown references the amount of tackles for losses that happened. How do you go about reinstilling confidence in this group after having a season like that?
Yeah, well, you know, that's a big part of it. I think confidence, regardless of any year, I think it's so important for offensive linemen to have that confidence. You know, I hesitate to say too much because I really haven't seen the tape from last year, exactly what were the problems. You know, sometimes it could have been the quarterback held the ball, it could have been the receiver ran the wrong route, could be the running back missed the guy. You know, so there's a lot of tackles for loss a lot of times is the O-line, but, you know, who knows, it might have been so my point is, you know, that's something that you know, this staff has studied, and it literally has been such a whirlwind. I'm just trying to catch up with, you know, every minute right now, you know what I mean? But when I get a chance, that's going to be a big thing that I'm going to do, is I'm going to go back and watch every single play from, you know, last season. So I'll have a much better idea of, okay, these were the issues. I just know in general, you know, it goes back to what I said was we are what we put on film. You know, at this level, if you're supposed to take a vertical set on 3rd down and you get a little bit wide, you know, maybe just even 2 inches, that could be a sack, you know, if they run a TE or whatever. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is to be able to be disciplined and do exactly what's put on tape. And then just my philosophy is we're going to go after those D linemen. We're not going to just sit back there like big dummies with, you know, our hands out. You know, those guys work on those dummies with just their hands there and they're whacking them down and all that. But that's not going to be us. I mean, we're going to cut down the angle on people. The tackles are going to set the width. The centers and guards are going to set the depth. But we're going to be aggressive. And we're not going to let those guys just push us back into the quarterback's face. And then I think that's kind of what I've learned more than anything in the NFL. I know you guys watch a lot of NFL ball, and, man, when they pin their ears back, it can get really, really scary. And if you let them get going, man, it's really hard to block those guys. So we're going to be real aggressive, and we're going to, you know, hopefully set a good pocket for the quarterback. The whole thing is the pocket. If the quarterback can step up, then he has a chance to escape. But if he feels people back in his face and he has nowhere to go, then I think you're in trouble. So, I mean, I'm still on the honeymoon, as you guys know right now. We haven't given up a sack yet, but so I'm going to enjoy it while I can. But, you know, it'll be – I'm anxious to, you know, watch and probably would have a much better answer for you at the end of the spring, like what were the issues. but we're going to get them straight for sure.
If I can just ask one follow, coming in kind of with spring practice already having started, how difficult is it for you to kind of really implement what you want? Is it more that you're going to have to stick to, fundamentals that you be doing anyway in any kind of system, or are you able, because you're familiar with the offense, are you able to still kind of make the critiques and do what you would normally do?
Yeah, well, after doing this 37 years, you've pretty much seen it all, I mean, a deuce block on a gap scheme is a deuce block here, it's a deuce block at Auburn, it's a deuce block a lot of places, and there's one way, guys might have different philosophies, one guy's gonna high knee it, one guy's gonna do whatever, but these are blocks that I've done wherever I've been forever, and then like at Louisville, we didn't run gap schemes, we were more inside and outside zone. Here at Auburn and here in Ole Miss, obviously we were running in, kind of more of a more plays than just inside and outside zone. So, I mean, it's really not that difficult as far as knowing what to do. I mean, I've done this forever. I know exactly how I coach it. I know exactly what works. I've studied it, years and years and years. So that part of it's not difficult. The difficult part is just, getting to know the players, seeing what their strengths and weaknesses are, seeing who should be playing and, who should be getting more reps and all those different things. So that's where you got to kind of catch up. But again, the fact that I was with Phil for 2 years, I mean, it came back to me like nothing, of course. And I like Coach said, I really believe in this offense. I think it's the best offense out there. And I'm excited to, be a part of it.
Okay, we've got 2 more left for you, Coach. Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, staying on pass protection, aside from the variables that you noted that have nothing to do with the guys up front, what is something that is absolutely mandatory that the group must be able to do as far as pass protection goes?
Yeah, well, I think, I kind of touched on it. For me, and again, there's different philosophies, different, another O-line coach might not come up here and say this, but for me, it's absolutely the pocket integrity is what I call it, and that has to remain. In other words, centers and guards, we can't get pushed back. Tackles, you're not going to get pushed in. You're not going to get pushed back. You're not going to get beat inside. If they're going to beat us, they're going to go around the top of us, around the tackles. So that to me is the number one thing. We are not going to be backing up and letting those guys get a real good kind of get going, because it's hard to block those guys. They are fantastic athletes, and so we're going to cut down the angle every chance we can and basically get them before they get going is my whole philosophy. And I think it's kind of a NFL type of philosophy in the sense that, you've got to use some different techniques. And just like anything else, when you're playing at a lower level, you can get away with maybe a little bit sloppy technique. But when you start getting up to, this is the highest level you can possibly play before you go into the NFL, of course. And so, we've got the thing that I will absolutely not accept is if you don't do it the way I'm coaching it, And I tell these guys all the time, look, you have access to every college tape, every pro team. If you want to pull up the right tackle from the 49ers, go ahead and pull him up and study what he does and make me a tape. If you feel like, hey, this would be a better way, go ahead, do what I do, because that's all I do. I just study those tapes and make them, and they're, teaching tapes, and I call them vision tapes, like here's my vision of what this block is going to be like. And but other than that, if you don't make me a tape, you're going to do it exactly the way we say. And Javon Patterson, who I had at Ole Miss, called me up after he was in the NFL for a year, and he said, Coach, they're coaching me exactly the way you coached at Ole Miss. I said, yeah, I know. I said, why didn't you listen to me? No, he did listen to me. He was one of the greatest kids ever. But some of those other guys didn't listen to me. I said, please tell so-and-so that he better listen, because this is how you're going to do it in the NFL also.
Is also one of the common characteristics of guys that are excellent pass protectors, footwork and balance. And if a guy's average in that area, how can you either improve that or compensate for it if they're not high end with their footwork and their balance?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's the key to coaching, obviously, right? We have to. It's easy, the great ones, and hopefully you can accentuate what they do. But the guys that struggle with those kind of things, how can we how can we offset maybe some deficiencies that they have, and that's why we practice. That's why we work so hard. I mean, if a guy, let's say he's really struggling with his foot quickness, well, he better be great with his hands then. And maybe we cut down the angle, even if it's a 3 technique. Let's get our hands on him right now. Maybe up kick him more. With basically we're going to almost make it seem like it's a run block. Change up those different things. There's certain things that they got to be good enough, or else you're going to be in trouble, obviously. But I can think of Kelvin Beachum, who I had at the Steelers, and he, wasn't the biggest, most physical guy. He just popped in my head. So but he was really good at, if he got in a bad situation, he could adjust, So for him, it was really attacking the defensive end and not letting them get going and things. So, and then, you have things scheme-wise. If you got guys struggling, you may always slide to that guy. So if the right guard's struggling, they have a grade 3 technique, we're going to tell that right guard, hey, you go get all, what I say, get all of them. In other words, you can be head-to-head because you got that center sitting inside of you. Or, of course, if you can chip with the back, chip with the tight end. So there's a lot of different scheme things you can do, but the rest of it is, hey, you're not good at flexibility, get in that weight room, get with those strength coaches, let's get flexible. So that's kind of what coaching's all about, is just figuring out what the deficiencies are and developing them and helping them be the best player they can be.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go back down to Alvaro Torres for our last question today.
Coach, what are your thoughts on Zach Rice, and how exciting is it for you to develop the #1 offensive tackle recruit in the nation?
Well, Zach, the main thing is Zach is an outstanding young man, great family. Like I said, I wanted to get a chance to get to know him better in recruiting, but of course, these young men can't talk to everybody, you know what I mean? So, but he's an outstanding young man. First of all, he's going to do a great job, The thing is, it is a process. I mean, and he's working through that process. Like I said, there was, it's probably the most difficult position, especially at just coming into play. It really is. There's so many things to learn, so many different technique things that you've got to come up with. So it's a thrill for me, just mainly because he's such a good young man, and he's really a special person. So, like I said, if you ask me what we got to work on, I'm still figuring that out a little bit. It's been one day, and what I'm most excited about is his attitude and his character that he has, and because I know that if you're a great young man like that, you're gonna end up being a player.
Thank you for your time, Coach.
All right, Coach, we really appreciate a few minutes this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.